webinar an overview and tutorial for the CTE and STEM Student Survey Generator. My name is Dr. Meagan Pollock, and I'll be your host. The CTE and STEM Student Survey Generator is an innovative tool designed for educators to develop surveys that effectively address equity issues in CTE and STEM programs. Utilizing the framework of NAPE's 15 root causes allows for creating specific hypotheses. Educators can choose from hundreds of tailored questions for open-ended or Likert scale surveys focusing on up to 3 root causes. This level of customization ensures the surveys are relevant and instrumental in identifying the real reasons behind participation disparities. The tool's user-friendly interface and targeted approach make it an invaluable asset for educators seeking to understand and improve equity in their programs. In this session, we have 2 goals. First, to introduce the Survey Generator tool, providing background on it and how to prepare to use it, and then I'll switch gears to walk you through the tool. This tool was paid for by a grant from the Toyota USA Foundation to the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity. The CTE and STEM Student Survey Generator was developed by me and will be maintained by me. And how did this come to be? Well, after years of working with educators, we have learned that one of the bottlenecks in our program improvement efforts is supporting educators in crafting surveys that help to uncover root causes. So, designed with educators' needs in mind, our survey generator aims to help people address this need by curating questions and statements that support uncovering root causes. Now, most often, our clients aiming to understand and address root causes for concentration and completion in CTE are funded by Carl D. Perkins' Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, or Perkins 5. However, this tool can be used by anyone who wants to craft a survey to improve outcomes for students in CTE and STEM. So why should you use this tool? Well, this tool is, again, for anybody who wants to use and conduct some root cause analysis for and within CTE and STEM. And you can use this tool to address special populations concerns for Carl D. Perkins accountability measures. Now, I want to help you prepare to use the generator tool. Now, over the next couple of minutes, I'm going to introduce how you're going to figure out what's your motivation and why you need this for the form. The next key thing you need to do to use the generator tool is to download NAPE's root causes table. I'll tell you a little bit about that. Then you need to read the tool and determine what are the 3 causes that you want to test. That's outside the scope of this webinar to teach you the root causes. There's plenty more resources you can find on that. But we want you to read that tool, determine the 3 root causes that you're going to select in the survey generator. And then the 4th thing that you need to do is to decide if you want to use a Likert scale or an open-ended survey. So let me give you a little bit of information about each of these. So first up is you've got to decide what is driving your survey. So there will be a few survey motivation prompts in the form that you'll need to complete. The first question is going to be, what program, course, or pathway are you prioritizing for your data collection? You'll see a drop-down list, and again, I'll show that to you in a moment. Next, you'll ask and answer, are you focused on one of the following Carl D. Perkins designated special populations for CTE? There'll be a drop-down list. Then you answer, what is the metric that you're trying to address? Participation, completion, concentrator, or performance? Some of those terms might not mean anything to you, and that's probably because you're not used to, or they aren't metrics that you're measuring if you're outside the Carl D. Perkins world. And that's okay. You can still use this for any other kind of metric that you're interested in. We'll ask you if you have a focus on a gender population and if you have a focus on a racial group. So those are the key questions that you're going to be asked that will help you to establish and formulate your hypothesis that your survey will be designed to answer. So the second step is to download NAPE's root causes table. So the entire resource is based on NAPE's root causes and strategy resource. Again, outside the scope of what we want to accomplish in this webinar, but you can download this tool from napequity.org/root, or you can go to the QR code and that will take you there as well. Now, there are a couple of documents on that page. There's one is the full literature review, which is basically like a book The second is a call to action sort of report. And then the third file on that page, which is really all that you need for this resource. And you can also download it while you're doing the survey, and I'll show that to you shortly. All you need is the table, the summary table. That's going to help you understand what are those root causes, and you can at least get enough information to ascertain what are the key priorities that you want to focus on. So once you download that, I want you to read through it and sort of pick out what are the 3 top root causes that you want to test, because that's the limitation of one run through the survey tool. Now, you might decide that all the root causes are at play, and that may be the case, but it's going to be really difficult to measure all of those things. So we encourage people that we work with to try to narrow it down to 3, and then you can use the survey to help you validate, disprove, and test whether those 3 are the root causes that are at play within your audience. Now, the next thing that you'll need to do is to decide if you want a Likert scale or open-ended survey. Let me tell you a little bit about those. So the survey generator helps you to create both, either an open-ended or a Likert scale question, but within each run through the tool, you can only create one. So you're going to focus on one attempt through the survey generator. You can create open-ended, and then you can come back and then you can create some Likert scale questions. Now, open-ended questions, these allow respondents to answer in their own words, providing qualitative data. They don't restrict respondents to predefined options. Likert scale questions are close-ended questions that ask respondents to rate, quality, importance, etc. on a fixed scale. Whereas Likert scale questions are close-ended questions that ask respondents to rate, quality, importance, etc. on some kind of fixed scale. A little bit more about open-ended questions. There are 3 characteristics to keep in mind, and then you can compare and contrast these to determine what's most important for you for your survey. So the first characteristic of an open-ended question survey is that there are unstructured responses. Respondents can express their thoughts, their feelings, their opinions very freely. The next characteristics is it provides rich and detailed data. This can also mean lots of data. So these questions can provide depth and insight into the respondents' perspectives. It also provides flexibility. This allows respondents to introduce ideas and issues that maybe you did not anticipate when you designed the survey. There are some specific uses for open-ended questions to gather detailed opinions or descriptions, or when you're exploring new areas of research where potential responses are not well understood, or for exploratory research to understand underlying motivations, beliefs, and attitudes. A few limitations to keep in mind around open-ended questionnaires is 1, there can be an analysis complexity. Analyzing open-ended responses can be time-consuming, and it typically requires some qualitative analysis skills. Now, generally, if you're just trying to get a pulse check on your student population, you don't have to do this at a dissertation level quality. ChatGPT, using OpenAI, ChatGPT 4.0 or plus, this is pretty remarkably helpful, and you can dump whole bodies of text in there and ask it to analyze it for you. So this complexity of analysis is becoming easier. Another limitation is the response variability. So the quality and length of responses can vary greatly among respondents. And so then sometimes that's where you see the benefit of a Likert scale question. Another and final limitation to consider is that there's some potential for ambiguity. Responses can sometimes be vague or off-topic. Now, Likert scale questions, as we've discussed, are close-ended questions that ask respondents to rate, quality, importance, etc. on some kind of fixed scale. Some key characteristics of Likert scale questions are 1, they are structured responses. Respondents choose from a set range of options. It provides quantitative data. This is data that can easily be quantified and statistically analyzed. Well, easy could be dependent on your analysis skills, but more easily quantified and statistically analyzed. Third characteristic is standardization. This means that there is some kind of scale that is consistent across all respondents, allowing for easier comparison. Some typical uses of a Likert scale survey would be to measure attitudes, opinions, and behaviors. In situations where you want to gauge the intensity of feelings about a specific topic, It's also useful for descriptive, correlational, and experimental research designs. Now, again, a few limitations to keep in mind when it comes to Likert scale questionnaires is number one, there's a limited depth. They just don't provide the depth of insight that open-ended questions can. This is where you can really see that sometimes you might want to have a mixture of both. So you can have a core standard set of Likert scale questions and then provide some open-ended questions to give you a little bit more depth and nuance to the data. Another limitation is there could be a central tendency bias. Respondents may avoid extreme categories and lean towards middle options, but you'll learn in our best practice document to always include a middle option, even if you don't want to. It's always better, based on the literature, to have that central sort of neutral option. Finally, the last limitation you might consider is that there's some interpretation differences. So different respondents might interpret the same rating scales in different ways. Now, before I walk you through the survey generator tool, I want to let you know of another key resource that you'll want to access. You can download the companion PDF and watch the webinar on the best practices for student surveys. As we've talked about, the role of surveys is essential for understanding students' needs and experiences and instrumental in identifying areas for development and improvement in educational programs. We've designed the best practices for student surveys resource to assist educators, administrators, and stakeholders in creating effective and inclusive surveys to understand the student experience. So visit the QR code for an overview webinar and a separate link to the PDF. Now, are you ready to dive in and explore the tool? Welcome to the CTE and STEM Student Survey Question Generator. So once you access this, and we'll provide the QR code shortly, you just dive right in, click start. As you can see, we're going to ask your first set of questions about what is motivating your survey. So we're going to click continue here. Here's where that first question is of what program, course, or pathway are you prioritizing for your data collection? We want you to select from the drop-down menu the best fit. If you don't find something, you can just select no selection. But we've done our best to create a pretty comprehensive list, and this is just going to help us in our data collection on the back end. Whatever you select here isn't going to change the options that you receive. It's just helping you for the email that you're going to receive, it will be inserted into the prompts where you see the text insert. So in this way, the more precision that you have on the front end, the better your questionnaire is going to be. I'm going to pick STEM. Okay. So the next question is are you focused on one of the following Carl D. Perkins designated special populations for career and technical education? If you have more than one focus, you can select, please select your priority. So you might have multiple things, but the form is only going to let you select one. If you want to learn more about this, you can follow this hyperlink and it will give you some more information about Carl D. Perkins with some key definitions here for you. Okay, so let's go back to the survey. So I'm going to say individuals preparing for non-traditional careers. That's my top priority. It'll move me forward here. Now it's going to ask me, what's the metric that you're trying to address? Participation, completion, concentrator, or performance. I want to study why don't students complete in STEM. So we're going to pick that solution there. Now it asks, are you focused on a gender population? Now there are multiple gender identities, and this list offers binary options only because of how most Perkins data is currently tracked. However, we really do encourage you to recognize, celebrate, and seek to understand the experiences and needs of every student. Now, I'm going to select women and girls specifically for this. Are we focused on a racial group? You could say all racial groups, or I could say I'm curious about Hispanic students. Now, here's where you're going to sort of split the survey. So it's going to ask, do you want to create a survey with open-ended or Likert scale questions? Now, I reviewed much of this information previously, but if you want to look over it in great detail, then you can either look at the image there or jump in here and look at this information. So I want to do a Likert scale for this iteration of my completion here. So the first question now is root cause 1, because the survey allows you to select 3 root causes, maximum of 3 root causes. You don't have to select all 3. But here it's going to say I'm going to be invited to select my first hypothesized root cause. Because to get to this, I've already read the summary descriptions from NAPE's PDF here. So I've already read through this. I've already looked through this first column of root cause and theory, and I've already made some determinations about what I think's at play. So I'm going to come back and say, all right, I'm ready to move forward, and I'm going to estimate that I think what's at play for the women and the Hispanic women in STEM in my population, I'm going to suspect that it has something to do with the climate, the educational climate. Now, it's going to give me some options. Now, you're going to see here some coded language. This is not for you. This is for our back end. It allows us to sort of sort and filter everything. And so you're going to select the questions that you'd like to include. Now, you can read through them. You can choose as many as you like. You can select all of them. But it gives you an opportunity to kind of fine-tune the questions that you want to ask. So let me read through some of these. The leadership at my school promotes diversity and inclusion and insert effectively. Now, here in the form, it only says insert. But whatever you selected previously, I selected STEM, if you recall. When you get the questions in your email, where it says insert, it's going to say STEM, okay? So again, because of the limitations of the software, it doesn't tell you what that insert is now, but it will tell you in the email. So the leadership of my school promotes diversity, inclusion, and STEM effectively. That's a question that the students are going to use a Likert scale to rate on. I've noticed gaps in representation of diverse groups in my STEM classes or programs. I like that question. The climate of my STEM classes is inclusive and respectful of diversity. I felt uncomfortable or excluded in my STEM classes due to my background or identity. There are noticeable patterns. Okay, so you get the idea. I'm going to select all of them, and then I'm going to come back and randomly change my mind and delete 2 of them for no reason, just for you to kind of see how this works. I'm going to click OK. Now, it's going to ask me if I'd like to select an additional root cause. I'm going to say yes. So I already selected education and climate. So now I want to select role models and mentors randomly from one of the root causes. I'm going to select 3, 4 questions, click OK. And again, when I get the email, it's going to say, I have role models in my STEM field who come from diverse backgrounds. So it will insert whatever you selected in there, okay? Now, would I like to select an additional root cause? I'm going to say no. Now it's going to put all of those things together. Based on your input, you think, or I think, that individuals preparing for non-traditional fields, I selected women and girls from a Hispanic background, don't complete in STEM because of education, climate, and role models and mentors. The goal of my survey should be aimed at either validating or disproving these root causes. Does this hypothesis reflect the goal of my survey? Well, I think so, yes. So here it's going to ask me for a little bit of information, and then I'm going to click OK. This is just to help us kind of track. We're just curious from our end where people are using this. So just some basic information. And you'll come to this end screen. Now you'll see here that the data may take up to 5 minutes to process and then arrive in your inbox, okay? So again, all the magical things happening on the back end, it could take about 5 minutes for all those things to catch up before landing in your inbox. All right, so now let's have a look at the email. Again, it takes about 5 minutes, and then this email will land in your inbox, and it will summarize your selections. So you'll see Your hypothesis is here first. You think that individuals preparing for non-traditional fields don't complete in STEM because of the following root causes: education, climate, career, role models, and mentors, etc. There's some additional information here. It says, this is automatically generated. It says, reminds you that there are blank bullet placeholders for text in case you have selected more items. If you receive any errors, I suggest that you try completing it again. If the errors persist, then you can contact me. You can learn more about the root causes in the survey from NAPE's publication here. A summary document is attached to this email. So a summary document about that I showed before is here. For best practices for student surveys, which I referenced already in this training, you can read the attached resource here. So best practices right there. And then remember, if you choose Likert questions, the best scale is strongly disagree, disagree, neutral agree, or strongly agree. So we recommend that you adjust the survey questions to meet your needs best. So this is just a tool to help you get started. Now here you see your questions by root cause. So you can select up to 50 for this email to be for this email to function. So here in education climate, you can see the few that I selected here, and this is where it drops in your selection. So I selected STEM, so it put that there where you previously saw the sort of insert thing. Career role models, you see the 4 that I selected there. That's the end. It says end of bulleted list just to help you know, like, hey, am I missing something? No, that's just the format of the auto-generated email. So what do you do next? You copy and paste the survey questions into your favorite survey tool. Follow our best practice guidelines, the ones attached for preparing and administering your survey. You can download the data once you've collected, submitting to the survey. Download the data into a spreadsheet and prepare the data set so that it can be disaggregated and analyzed. I've included a video tutorial on demonstrating disaggregated data. And then your goal is to validate or disprove your hypotheses, ultimately identifying the root cause. What does your data tell you? And so for more information on how to reach your equity and CTE and STEM goals, contact me or NAPE. So the next thing here is that you can share your survey outcomes, testimonials, feedback, and ideas here. This is, again, just another short little form that you can say, I want to submit, feedback, survey outcomes, case study. You can select any one of those, and then we'll have that information. And again, we just want to thank you for using this tool. And again, you'll have this email. It'll be saved. You can always come back, and if you feel like you want more choices, you can resubmit it and get more options as well. So if you're ready to access the tool, here's the QR code. You can use the QR code, and that will take you to the form to submit your hypothesis and to select the questions for your survey.